Just gonna visit here with Bugsy, quarter horse mare, and her owner Jody. I thought maybe we'd do a little before or after type of, since you haven't seen some of the progress yet, I thought maybe you'd like to share a little bit of the reasons why you brought the horse to me in the first place.
Sure, I would like to. I found Kevin's ad, and I had Bugs for a while, and she was a horse that I could not sell because I wasn't comfortable riding her and wasn't comfortable to have anybody else, you know, come to my place and get on her. I didn't feel that, you know, she was safe, and I just, you know, couldn't just drop her off at an auction or anything like that. I had a bond with her, but when I bought her, I do believe she was pretty fast-tracked. They had said 30 days. Okay. And when I got it was a really small indoor arena, and in the middle of the winter, and she walked, trot, loped, picked up both leads, and I was like, whoa, that's impressive, you know. And so I took the horse home, and spring came, and you know, worked with her. I found out how green she was. So lo and behold, I did find a trainer to take her. Okay. And I guess that's where everything really probably went backwards. Okay. Do definitely know that there was some, you know, emotional and physical trauma she endured. He definitely was hard-handed, and she came back a whole different horse. She was like totally didn't trust anymore. And she was totally green when she went, but she came back and she was just super tense, super, you get on her back and she would just be anticipating like something, like I don't know, like I was going to ask something of her. She was never relaxed, her head always raised. When I got on her, I felt the tension in her throughout her whole body. Right. She had no wool on her when she came back. Yeah, her backup wasn't there. It was just very disappointing. Just the horse actually came back worse than what she, you know, went, and because of the, I think how he pushed her through and physically pushed her through. So the horse definitely. I had went off her twice because she seemed to be so spooked on her back of anything moving, you know, just hand motion, whatever. And 2 times she had bolted sideways, and I lost my balance. Okay. And then she went into a buck, and of course I was already halfway off by then. So. So I knew that kind of told me I wasn't too brave to get back on again. Right. I knew I couldn't sell her like that. I couldn't put anybody else on her. So I kept her around for another couple of years. And so she was just out in the pasture for about 2 years then? Yes, after, and basically just worked on the bond, because when she came back, she wanted nothing to do with me. She was scared of her own shadow, and just like a totally different horse than she was when she went. So yeah, and I do know that, like, loping her was like hi-yo silver. She would jump into a canter, and it was like there was kites behind you, and she just would, you know, just like anticipate, like either you're going to ask me to go faster, maybe whip me, do something. She just was tense and very uncomfortable. So yeah, I could never, even though you loped her around a few times, she would slow down a little, but it was still a very frantic lope, and I wasn't comfortable being on her, and knew that she needed totally start from square one again. And so I guess that's when I found your ad. So I was real reluctant where to take her after, you know, because she, to me, isn't just like a green 2 or 3 year old horse. She's one that has a lot of baggage, you know, trust issues, anxiety, tension, and that kind of thing. So when I saw that you specialize in kind of behavioral and different modalities, I'm like, that's somebody that maybe could relate to Bugs and get her to relax.
Yeah, okay. And How about some of the handling around her, if you may have moved around the head too much?
Oh, that, yeah, when I bought her too, they said she was head shy, and they said, oh, you'll never be able to use a brow band bridle on her because you can't touch, I can't remember which ear it was, but, and she was just, it was just like somebody must have twitched or cranked on her ear. You could not even get near it. And so yeah, the head thing was always an issue, you know, very head shy too. So there was just a lot in the bag with her.
And you mentioned you wanted to be able to maybe someday rope off of her, throw a rope, or
yes, that was my main thing. Because like being on her back, I would not even feel comfortable taking off a shirt or grabbing a rain slicker and putting on, because anytime she saw motion, when you're on her back, it was, you know, flight, and she just tensed up, and I just could not get her over it.
Okay. So it'd be a safe bet to say if we come at her with a tarp or threw a rope off of her, she'd probably go through the roof then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that was.
Or maybe touch her in the flank or the sides.
Yes, and she was always very tense in the flanks and sides. You know, real goosey, and just you know, seems like she would not get desensitized, even though I would do some groundwork with her. It was so hard to get her. It's like she always had this adrenaline rush, and she was tense and never focused on me, more focused on what are you going to do to me, you know, kind of attitude.
It's like, you know, all right, I noticed a lot of that with her when she came in. She had a really reactive side to her up front here. Like she was just, if you did anything too fast, it was make that little mare noise and head go up and get tense and want to flee, you know. Got near that back end, and boy, it seemed like if you just raised a whip up there a little bit, you know, she was like, gone too, you know. So she demonstrated a little bit of something, you know, happened that she's showing a lot of anxiety about. So we did a lot of work with, you know, desensitizing her to that and letting her know that it's okay, you know, that she's not going to, you know, be asked too heavily for work from now on. She says, you know, we're just going to build a relationship with her and an understanding and a line of communication where she's going to get confident in our requests, you know, and she's going to understand the difference between when we really want some energy versus a nice, slow, you know, relaxed canter, you know, so that she can get rid of a lot of that anxiety that makes it uncontrollable and makes her feel like she's a loaded spring when you're sitting in that saddle, like you're kind of mentioning.
Definitely.
You know, so I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of something here. This is your first visit with the horse since you've dropped her off, and we've had a few lessons with her. And I'm just going to kind of go through some of the stuff that we've done with her, and you can kind of see if you notice a little bit of a difference. Okay.
Thank you.
How's that? Thank you. We'll just step out here a little bit. Wakey, wakey. All right. So, how is your horse for standing to be saddled? Patience.
Yeah, the pace. I mean, the whole. I can't really remember now.
Okay.
That's totally, not her. I mean, she would be more tense and anticipating.
And it seemed to me that her head was a little bit higher when we were trying to.
Her head was, and neck were very raised.
So we worked on that a little bit, but that's all coming with the trust and the line of communication we're developing with her. And one thing I did notice with the horse, you know, the attention span still needs to be addressed a little bit. You know, she's kind of wandering off with some voices out there. But even the saddle pad, when I tried to put the saddle pad on, this whole area was real, you know, if you touched her there, she'd sidestep out, you know, and just tighten right up. So, I mean, we did a little bit of work on that where she can handle it so we can come up like a grizzly bear. And she's probably going to deal with it a lot better. So, and I don't have to hold on to her anymore to walk around in circles and say, hey, wait for me. So we can, first, you know, let her see if she has any anxieties about the saddle. Care less. So we'll just go ahead and throw that up there. And see how many times she wants to walk off on us now. And if anybody's wondering, we just, I just hosed the horse off. Well, we dropped our little cushion, but that's all right. We'll use it without. So we're just going through a series of everyday normal procedures that were ultimately a challenge for this horse. Just to see if we see a little bit of improvement in the trust and the attention span and the safety aspect of standing saddled to be, or standing still to be saddled. And I think we're seeing that a little bit here. Right, okay. And we did I gave you a chance to view another video of ours where we did some groundwork and disengaging the hips and flexation. And head shy horse here. Get rid of that. So what we did is we went ahead and took care of that right after a round pen session. So we just focused on about 20-30 different things in the round pen session where we're achieving, you know, the join up process with the horse, developing the attention span a little bit, letting her know she doesn't have to run off. You know, getting her to pay attention to the handler a little bit more. So if we want her to follow us around, get out of our space and have that leadership role, that horse should always yield to our asking. I mean, it's just your alpha horse in the pasture. You know, if this horse is on the low end and he's on that hay, and that alpha horse comes and says, "Hey, I don't want that hay pile, get out of here." You know, he's not, shouldn't even have to lay a tooth or a hoof on that horse. That subordinate horse is going to yield away. On another respect, though, if we want to have a little safety in the stall and keep that butt away from us, you know, it's very useful. I mean, if we drop our crop on the ground here, instead of sticking my head down by that back leg to pick it up, I can say, disengage that over, and I can pick up that crop safely. So we've got that line of communication. If I want to work on this fence over here, I can have that horse get out of my way. I don't have to worry about her running off. And we can just play around getting that attention span. Isn't that cool? So we can just, when we go home, play with this stuff here a little bit. Have her lock onto you. When you're picking up the stall or something like that, have her follow you around. Give her a job to do. Stay with you a little bit. So that's kind of cool. We got all that established. All right, so some of the things that we've done after the round pen session, and there was many. We'll have a video that everyone can watch for my round pen session. We can kind of see everything that a horse goes through in that process. Describe to me how tight this neck was.
Oh my, very tight.
Right.
Neck and head were raised, you know, up to the saddle horn. I mean, she had a very tense, bracy look to her. Right.
So to say that this would be possible here was probably not going to happen, right? No. So, in my other video, we explained the importance of having this whole total neck and head and mind and shoulder relaxed, so you know we can have a safer horse to ride. Put some safety tools in, such as teaching her to bring that nose around, and teaching her the go forward cue, what your legs mean, by asking that rear end to disengage. Now, ta-da, drum roll, your non-existent backup. How's that?
That's amazing. And then to see that her neck is level and her nose is tucked.
And that, yeah, that vertical flexation or that breaking at the pole or tucking that nose, that was a chore to try and get through, but she's picking that up. And that braciness in the front end, she would rather have drug her feet backward than release them. And when she did, it was, you know, full of anxiety and sometimes stepping on herself and causing more of a blow up. So by doing these exercises alone here, really helps her to understand where to put her feet. And we're getting a good crossover. Now she's no longer stepping on herself. She's getting her body and feet in a position where she understands to transfer that energy from the disengaging crossover into the backup. So all we're doing is redirecting the energy. We're breaking everything free by teaching the horse to disengage off the hindquarter. Then we can develop and use that energy into the backup. Once we've got that free, then we went ahead and focused on the vertical flexation, which you're seeing here. So when we ask her to back up, put the two together, you got a nice little show pony. instead of, you know, and that's really what she acted like. Head was up, nose was out, and braced, you know, and it felt icky, it felt dangerous from the saddle. So we addressed a little bit of that. Now, spookiness. Whoa. Stay. Ground tie. She's cooperating. We'll just grab our equine torture equipment here, I guess. I really won't edit that out. So, do you think the horse was going to be able to handle any one of these objects?
No, I tried.
Okay.
She just, anything that you came at her, I think from where she went the last time, she must have thought that it was something that was going to hurt her, or, you know.
Sure, sure.
She instantly, you know, I could get her, if the tarp was flat and there was no wind, I could get her to walk on it, but if you lifted it up like it was coming at her.
A little bit of movement underneath this front end.
Oh, yeah.
Right, maybe that noise. Yeah.
Tension, panic.
And I did notice that with her, and a lot of horses that are bracing the front end really have a fear of something kind of coming in at this angle right in here. And some of them will just strike right out, and some of them will just, but you know, you get a horse like that, and that's a horse that can be a potential rear up and flip over horse, you know, or going into bucking. So what we did is we got her used to a lot of this stuff. Any type of fast motion around her face, if I just kind of went like this with my hand in front of her, she'd step back, you know. So now we go from there. See, we got a little bit in that area down there, but that's a whole lot better than what it was. Okay? I mean, for this horse to be able to handle any of this, especially through this area, right in through there, or to come into this off eye, was traumatic for the horse. And like I said, when you're coming in to this area, a lot of horses really can't deal with that. So you help a horse deal with that to the point where they know it's not going to hurt them. You can have your turkeys jumping up in the woods, or your bunny rabbits hopping through the trail. And I noticed the noise aspect, especially up around this area, or on the saddle. The first time I did that on the saddle, this horse came unglued. So I mean, imagine trying to put a slicker on, or trying to, if you can hear that, this microphone probably picks it up pretty well. And she's a little worried about it, but this horse was having nothing to do with that before. Especially, you've got a lot going on here. We got that bag on the other side on the off eye, which could send the horse potentially into me if she was still flighty, so we gotta be careful of that. But otherwise, all this noise here, we helped her to really understand that it's okay. She's not gonna be hurt. It's just all part of life and how to deal. See, we can't get a horse used to everything out there in the world. We could spend the rest of our lives in the horse's life sniffing every mailbox on the block, you know, but if we can teach a horse how to handle their fear and to let them know it's just part of being saddled up, and, you know. So as you can see, it's a little bit better. Now the whip aspect, and I raised that whip up for the first time, you know, just in the air. Around that round pen she went at Mach 1. So probably a safe bet to say that's a little more improvement on that aspect as well. Around the legs, around that haunch area, where if you just touch that, she thought she was supposed to go at speed of light around some barrels. So we can have that touch in her and just really up that, make some noise. So, do you see any improvement there?
It's like not the same horse.
Wait, we're not done terrorizing your horse yet. All right, and you did mention that you wanted to, we'll still work on that flight aspect. A lot of horses don't like rein slickers. You mentioned rein slickers. Even brush up underneath the horse, we can simulate a lot of that with, especially when you've got noise, you know. So we can come up and get the horse used to all this stuff, especially a head-shy horse, getting them to tolerate this kind of noise up around the ears. I mean, that's relatively huge for a horse to be able to handle that. And especially a horse that might have gotten a few cracks in the butt with a whip, to be able to come up and to have a horse not even flinch and tolerate that, especially up to the flank area where they might have been spurred up quite a bit or over-undered. You know, to be able to tolerate that without that flinching, where I believe this horse, you know, would have really probably had a heart attack the first night if I would have just come up and kicked my head right off and went running about 3 miles across the country. But we've got a horse now that is doing a whole lot better with dealing with all this noise. Not more trusting, tolerant, and as people would like to say, more broke, more kid safe, husband safe, whatever you want to put it. But a horse that can tolerate this kind of stuff up and around, especially in areas where they might have seen a little excessive persuasion from another trainer or something, and coming to the off high, especially on a head shy horse, right? I mean, I think it's a little bit safe to say that we would be a lot more safe in the saddle if we were to be on this horse, and she's going to deal with life a little bit better. And I notice that, you know, one thing that you are more brave than I am is getting on this horse. When I came up and I wiggled that, shot sideways and did about 3 laps around the round pen, and before she stopped and looked like, what was that? So we needed to really, still not too comfortable with it, as you noticed. You know, it's all right. It's all right. Yes, it is. So we just give her a little calm down cue and tell her it's okay. It's all part of business, isn't it, huh? All part of business. So we're just going to go through, and like I said, this is relatively a few lessons in compared to the rest of her life of handling, and she's come a long ways already. So, you know, she wasn't tolerating that one bit before. So, well, one thing I like to do here before I hop in the saddle is I like to disengage these hips a little bit, back them up, maybe walk them forward off that pressure, disengage the hips here a little bit. Now you can kind of see where the 3-step waltz comes in, that John Lyons labels it. And we just go 2 fingers, guide that horse now, and we can start talking to a good crossover, right there, and maybe back up. Isn't that much more of a sweet backup? We'll try the other side, and the reason I like to do this, and I teach all of my students this, and the horses, is one of the #1 reasons people go to the emergency room in equine-related accidents, as I stated in my other video, are we saddle up a horse and just hop in that saddle, and if something isn't fitting right, that horse could go to bucking, or worse yet, flip right over on top of you. So by doing this here, helps that saddle to find where it's supposed to be. So I'll hold the pressure until she gets a good crossover. She's thinking reverse. That's that tightness on that side that isn't totally gone yet. That neck is still harboring tension. Once we can disassociate that neck from those hind quarters and understand the 2 different cues, then we get a good crossover. And then we get a better backup, collective. Because that's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. First we got to get the brakes off of the backup, off the feet. Then we can start asking for all the suppleness up here, because it's like the same cue, but for a horse to be able to stay soft, supple, and relaxed and move the feet, that's a tremendous deal to a horse. So we got to start by just breaking the movement free, then working on putting the 2 together. And that's where we're at with this horse right now. So as you can see now, by just doing that a little bit, we've got quite a bit of slack. Yeah, and I cinch that up at first. Sometimes horses, they say hold wind or suck wind a little bit when you're saddling up, but a lot of times the saddle just needs to find its own fit up in the, you know, the groove. So we can go ahead now, retighten that up. Look how much we gained by just doing this. So we don't have to get off the saddle later. It's already readjusted. And I really advise people, after you tighten it up again, just walk them out a little bit more, just to make sure you didn't pinch something when you're tightening it up. And you would watch the ears to make sure they're not flat back, warning you know, because they're feeling pinched. You'd watch, make sure they're not getting really cinchy or you know, tight through the flanks there. Okay, come on. Anticipation. There we go. There we go. There you go. Good girl. That was pretty good. So I was looking for all the warning signs of maybe the saddle not fitting right there while I was moving her around. And she says everything was okay. So we can move on to some other spooky, scary things. We wanted to be able to throw some ropes off of her someday. So I went ahead and did some work around her legs. I actually secured these to her legs and had her lead. I could lead her by her feet, each individual foot, so she's perfectly good, to make sure that she has no animosities about the rope behind her, because you add a touch of a rope and then something dragging her that you just roped behind, that sometimes is a little too much for a horse to handle. She's getting better with that. She's tolerating it, where I don't think somebody would have stayed in the saddle if we tried that before.
Not me.
Yeah. So as you can see, and then if you were to throw something off on this spooky head-shy horse, as you can tell, this spooky head-shy horse,
That's amazing.
you know,
I was scared to lift my arms in the saddle because she would just tense up, like, you know, like thinking I was gonna like spank her. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything right in here, you know, showed me there was some kind of trauma. So to be able to, and she's still a little unsure, but that's all right. And we can just say, it was cool. It's all part of business.
Like
Yeah, so if we can play around, just help her get used to all that good stuff, that's great. And that's where she's at. So again, you know, throwing stuff off to the offside on this horse before going through the system. If I was to make the mistake and do that too quick, and that rope landed on that offside, that horse would have come right through me to escape. And that was a very dangerous thing. So I'm trusting this horse a lot, especially across that saddle, make that noise coming up over that saddle. You know, she's a little unsure, there's a little, but before that would have been a big reaction. You know, I wouldn't have thought of standing on this side and throwing something to the offside, and then dragging it to her, touching her body, especially in this back area, or up, over, from behind, underneath, walking from one eye to the other. You know, I would have probably stayed about 4 more feet back. So, as you can see, we've got a lot more trust in this horse, a lot more tolerance in our stupid human activities, if we want to try and do. Horfus is saying, we're gonna do what today? We're gonna go roping cows? Why are we doing this? You know? But that's what we want to do, so we got to have the horse tolerate all these funny little things. So you think that's a little bit of an improvement. We'll move on to the real deal, a good old lasso. Reverse coiled on me. And I'm not a roper. I'd be lucky if I could rope myself, let alone keep my coils all organized. But this horse did not like rope noises, so we would have had a heck of a time to throw a rope off of her. So we're going to help her just to get used to all that stuff, especially down in this area. And the first couple of times I even thought of touching that saddle or these flanks or this area, any of this, and this horse was a big deal that we had to really do a lot of extensive work on to desensitize. But you know, we're going to be banging up against that saddle on this side, on that side, and we need that horse not to, if we're focused over here, to sidestep out from being spooked. You know, that would be a bad situation, especially if we're in a herd of cows. So we need to have her handling all that, and then someday we want to be able to sort of rope, but get a little bit better of the noise aspect. If my microphone is picking that up, she really didn't like that too well before. So, and then to be able to throw that off through that eye, you know, there's a huge improvement I feel we've made. So I think we've hit your goal of being able to rope off of her at the start of it. You know, the start of a roping horse anyway. So now at least we can go into roping training. I have to go to a trainer to teach me how to rope first. How about back there? It's in all directions. I never claimed to be a cattle rustler or a wrangler, so.
I can't rope either, so, but I just knew if I could throw a rope off her, then I had a safe horse.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought we're.
That's one thing, you know, from the trauma from the last place, I just knew that she was anticipating, you know, something bad.
I think we probably safe to say we could probably throw a rope off her now once we get up there. Well, I'm going to hop up on this horse and we're going to test that theory. So I'll be your guinea pig to see if I get launched up into the ceilings, into the rafters. But I think we're on the right track.
Oh, definitely. I'm so amazed. It's
Okay.
a whole different horse.
Okay. A little bit more of a horse trauma, desensitization. But as you can see, around that back end is really huge. Around those legs, off to the offside, especially, you got that slap up from her underneath there. She didn't even show a flinch. So before, if I would have even touched her lightly like that, that horse was coming up off the ground and hunching and cowering. So we're really gaining some trust in that horse, especially if we're going to take that noise aspect and make the whip sound. See, any horse is not going to like that, but this horse really come unglued. Especially in that area. Right there. Good girl. Good girl. How about this side? Not exactly the little mini sonic boom I'm looking for, but it kind of demonstrates the point, I believe. Okay. I'm still working on a little something with her for standing still while being mounted, but she's getting better about that. We'll just kind of maybe just throw this over here for now, I guess, in a pile. But we can see how she does from the saddle a little bit. And then we'll call it an evening and let her get back to her supper, which I interrupted her from. So, I don't know. I don't know if I can get on a horse without my bag. You think we can get her to move? Barrel horse. So, this horse would like to walk off as you're mounting her. I know it's too much anxiety. And from up in this saddle here, especially down in that area, I don't know about that. Well, what do you say? That's about 6-7 more feet to go. How about if we touch that button there a little bit up underneath? How about we spank her a little bit? Which didn't take much to persuade her. All you had to do is make a gesture to touch back there, and this horse wanted to go run barrel race. So I think we've got a little bit more control and trust in this horse, don't you think? Say yes. Say yes. Yes. Yes, yes, horse. Yes. Yes, come on. Yes, there it is. All right. So, I don't know. How about we just play around a little bit more? Tail flip. And she said, quit it. I can flop my whip around too. What do you think of that? Is that all right? How about we back up a little bit? A little bit nicer of a back up there. All right. A couple of little more tests. One that she doesn't like too well. I'll have you help me out there maybe. How about hand me the lasso? I'm a little bit slow here today, recovering from some injuries. How about we're going to add a little more to it. How's that? Make it a little more difficult for the horse. How about put that tarp halfway in there and cinch it down for me. There you go. There you go, and just cinch it up tight. There you go. Alrighty. Something tells me I should be wearing a crash helmet. Alright, so we're just going to pull this spooky, scary object behind us. I've got a little bit of a story to tell you. I've known a few people to do this. and one in particular was kind of close. I had a friend of mine who decided he was going to tie his new horse out to graze on the front lawn, and he's going to tie it to an old tire. Well, the horse started moving that tire and it started following him behind him. Now you got a monster chasing the horse. Well, horse takes off running down the middle of the road about a quarter mile away, meets the semi head on. When horse is going to flight mode. Now I'm gonna ask you, do you see something with this horse? What's touching its back end? Right. If the first time I ever touched this horse with anything on that back end, coming unglued is an understatement. So is the horse scared now? A little bit different of a different horse? Okay, so now we can rope something, drag it behind us. We can go to all those cowboy challenges, win some trophies, a little bit of gas money. Yeah. So you're on your way to a trail challenge horse, to a working cow horse, to a, she's got reining possibilities. Yeah, she's got a lot of natural ability. She's a thinker. And now we can just play around a little bit maybe. There's two different cues here, and one is disengaging the hindquarter. Getting a little confused because last night was a new lesson. I'll show you what I was talking about last night. This horse was started on that front end, and then she went into running some barrels from that other trainer. She really dove into that turn on that barrel and just accelerated out so fast she would just do a burnout with her back end trying to come out of there. Otherwise she was afraid she's going to get the what for. When you've got a horse that started on the front end and you don't do a lot of turning with that horse and go into advanced training, they seem to get really stumbly and trippy up front. They'll hit their own front feet instead of a good nice crossover, or they're leaning into it, which is really going to, and they're full of anxiety like that. Every horse has a good and a bad side. To get a proper lead on that bad side will be next to impossible. So she had a real hard time with this, and this is just a first in the series of some things I'm going to teach her. And it was one of the most difficult to do from the saddle. But I thought last night, that's what's going to benefit her the most, and she picked up on both sides last night. So I'll just demonstrate that. Seems something fundamental, but it was something this horse absolutely couldn't do. Is to associate this rein with this front foot to not only pick it up, so she's not so trippy, but to really wait for where you want her to set it down. She's not so good on this side yet, but this side is a big improvement. I mean, when you pick this up, her mind wanted to go to another horse, and that foot just kept going the other way. And now we've got something that can teach that horse when we're walking forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk her forward. I'm going to ask for that foot to come up, step out, squeeze her forward off of that. We'll try this side. If you watch that foot, I'm going to pick it up. And see how she stepped out and waited for me to release before she set it down? Yeah. There. Now, that doesn't seem huge. But in the scheme of things, for a finished horse to have control and communication through each rein, see that? We're actually talking to that foot to step up and out. There, there, and there. The more, see what we're going to do is we're going to connect this rope, this rein to that foot. We're also going to connect this rein to the shoulder for that foot to go and step over the other way. So she's going to understand through a subtle change. Right here we might pick up like this a little bit and wait for her to really come out. Or we'll pick up and we'll come into her neck a little bit to take the shoulder and cross over the other way. And each rein, so we can actually start talking to this foot. Let's back up here. We can take this rein, the left rein, and say step out with the left foot. Then we can follow that up with cross over and take your shoulder with you. And pretty soon what you're doing is you're planting your pivot foot and having that horse do a nice circle around, drilling a hole in the ground with your pivot foot, which takes some reining trainers weeks to set into a horse. We can do one side a night on a horse and doing it perfectly and having the perfect crossover. The more they step around and the better they cross over without hitting the other foot, and the better that pivot foot is planted, the faster that spin will be. And the more they're going to start paying attention and be loose and relaxed and waiting for your next move. And the less trippy they will be, and the better it's going to feel when you're riding, just trail riding or anything, And by getting control of all four corners of the horse and teaching those control aspects, we can go then into any discipline we want, from barrel racing to reining to cow, because we've got the tools to discuss things with a horse. Say, hey, you're dropping that shoulder a little bit. How about we pick that up? See, we can have them pick that shoulder up, and that horse will know we're talking directly to that specific shoulder, and we can practice that a little bit, you know, until he gets it better, then try our pattern again, and lo and behold, the horse understands that much quicker, and we can correct those little issues. Instead of having a leaning, tippy horse, we can have a more, you know, square turn. So this is where your horse is at so far, and now this, to address the other issues of cantering wildly, which I found out the horse likes to do, and to come down out of that canter, you know, was a whole full of anxiety experience. That horse wasn't going to calm down. Like you said to me, you tried to run her through it, but she just wasn't coming down out of it. So now to try and get a stop on that horse, let alone a collected back up, where she's sleeping right now and forgetting. But we'll go ahead and try. You got some room there. And we've got a nice little better trot too. We can start seeing a little collection. We can start seeing a little collection in her trot. And we can actually slow that trot down pretty good to almost a in-place little trot. Isn't that just nice and smooth? And we're starting to see some nice collection and softness in that face there, which later on we'll see in the canter, but we're not there yet. So it's starting to look a little bit more pretty. Keeping that nose tucked in good. We're following the feel of those reins better. Now, is this something you could expect out of this horse? How's this look? Is that a little bit better? She's leaning a little bit there, so with those exercises I'm going to teach her, I can pick up that left shoulder a little bit more. Now how about we try a stop? Whoa. Did we have a stop like that when the horse came to me?
Oh my. Didn't have a lope like that either.
So
I mean, it was like tension. I mean, she just,
right.
There was tension there the whole time because she was running through the bit.
Okay. Well, I think that we'll just about conclude for tonight. We've come quite a bit of time with this. You know, I did miss some time. I took an injury, and the weather hasn't been cooperating with the heat, the humidity. But I'd say to say that this is probably a different horse that you brought to me.
I am totally amazed. I'm kind of in awe yet. I didn't know if some of her issues could be addressed or not, and I just...
Do you feel that there's a...
Oh my, I've never seen her this calm and relaxed.
Okay. And you know, one of the main things with this horse is that after we went into the canter, it was uncontrolled flat out, and when you asked for the stop, it wasn't there. And the head was high, the nose is out, and when she did stop, it was on that front end bouncing. And then it was, where are we going now? And hyperventilating and just looking left, looking right, couldn't stop, stand still, you know, which was really not safe because she wasn't coming down.
Like that and just be like, flop her hands around. That's amazing.
Yeah, so she's come a long ways, and she's, and I believe this horse is going to stay in for a little bit more finish work, and I think she's just going to turn out. She's got some great natural ability, and she's a fast learner. Yeah.
She'll pick up some of the reining maneuvers and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're seeing a lot of it right now. She's picked up a little bit last night, and I put that slide into her last night alone. She picked it up, you know. So if I just did this a little bit more here, you know, we could probably get a nice 3-4 foot slide out of her. But I don't want to push it too hard because the footing underneath of the sawdust isn't so good, and we don't want to, you know, do too good of a slide and get her burning her hocks. You know, we got to take some precautions and get some boots on her and stuff like that, because, you know, if we get a good slide out of her and she hurts herself, we could destroy that stop. So we have to be a little careful playing around with that and get some protection on her back feet there. So, but otherwise it wouldn't be too long at all. This horse would do a nice 10-15 foot slide in just about another week or two from now, probably.
That's
so
amazing.
yeah.
I had no idea. I was just horseback, and I didn't know she had all this natural ability. That's amazing to me. I couldn't see it before because there was too much tension and panic and anxiety. And
And that's, you know, where I specialize in dealing with the horse's mind. Once we get that mind right, everything else falls into place. And if there is natural ability there, it's going to shine through. And if there's any underlying issues outside of any abuse type issues, then also we can address that, you know, because horses will hide a lot of that with that tension and stuff at first. But what's even more unique about it is once you get rid of all that garbage, the real funny side starts coming out. And then you start seeing just a really cute side of a horse you've never seen before, and more personable.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's just, it makes a wonderful relationship for the rest of your life then.
That's great.
You know, and we just got to teach her a little calm down cue from the saddle and start dropping that head down.
Okay.
So when she gets this better, when we pick up on this rein, the head's going to drop. And if we ride proactively out on the trail and we see something that we know might spook a horse, we can start talking to her and say, hey, drop the head down. Because we never see an excited horse with his head down here. It's usually 10 miles in the air. So if we can teach that horse to start dropping the head from the saddle like this and say, hey, something's coming, and give them a cue like that, they'll start understanding, and they'll start looking just a little bit, and you can actually, you know, address that, and pretty soon the horse will start becoming braver and braver, you know, and trusting you that you're looking out for him too. So there's a whole lot that went into getting this horse this far, but we're going to try and put some videos together to demonstrate how we accomplish that in a short order. And it really was a short amount of time that this horse came around to this point. It may not seem a lot, but I wish we had a before.
Oh, yes.
You know, I wish we had a before video of this horse, because I was afraid to ever get in the saddle of this horse until it went through some of my system.
Oh,
the more horses that a person trains, you know, better the trainer, the less likely they're just going to hop in a strange horse's back. You know, so this horse really needed to have some safety tools put in. We've got it. We needed to get that mind a little more relaxed and trusting, and I think we got it. I mean, before, if I just went like this, you know, we were running a barrel race, you know. So I'm really proud of this horse. I thank you for having some patience with me through the hot weather and the delays of my injuries. And do you care to hop on or go for a little ride and try? See if you feel a difference? You're more than welcome to.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing.
Okay.
How the horse is transformed in just a very, very short time.
Come on, Bugsy. All right. Well, you want to cut it there, or you want to try and ride?
Cut it.
Okay, cut it.
We'll get the wreck.
We'll get the wreck. Were you able to pick up? You think with the?
We'll see.
Okay.
That's why I had her move halfway up there.
Okay. There we go.
Oh my goodness, I don't think I've ever seen her neck this level.
Oh, really?
It's usually always, yeah.
Okay.
No, she already looks like a different horse.
She's licking and chewing. She says she's all right with it. No nervousness at all. She dropped her head down there for you. And we want to remember to keep a good line of communication with this horse. I always try to tell people, and I'm sure you know this and heard this before. I'm going to have you make a promise to your horse, and you have to promise and make sure that you never break this promise. Okay. Whenever she does the right thing, we're going to give her a full release. So if we got any type of English training where we want to have contact in the mouth, at least through the training phase of this horse to help her to keep learning, we want to, when she does the right thing, total release. Okay. We can go through, you know, and connecting the reins and things in different, like dressage or English type of training. We can do that later, but it really helps a horse to understand a full release means they found the right answer. So through the training phase, I just like to have my students, you know, if we're asking for a left turn or for the nose to tip left, you know, full release when she finds that right answer. That way you're going to start seeing some licking and chewing. She can say, oh, okay, I understand.
I promise that.
Okay. So if you tell your horse, you know, if you do the right thing, I'll get out of your mouth, and I'll never break that promise, then you've got a trust and a relationship that will really develop and stay there. We'll go ahead and try whatever you'd like to do. And if you got any questions for me.
This is not the horse that I've been on before, you know, just to see her neck that low, it's just like, never is she been that relaxed. The tension, I'm just amazed.
Really?
It's like I don't know how to, yeah.
That's awesome to hear that.
It is. I mean, the neck would be raised up and her nose would be out. And
Okay.
I'm just like, this is, yeah, like I'm riding a Western pleasure horse or something.
Well, she's starting to look like one with a top line like that. She's showing a real good top line for that Western pleasure look. And you can actually play around with dropping that head a little more by just kind of picking straight up on the reins until you see her head drop, then release. You can squeeze her forward off that a little bit, just till you see her head drop a little more. Yeah. That's something we can work with a little bit later when she knows it better too, though. She's in the learning phase, and she has to have a lot more repetition to really have it set in as a conditioned response.
Wow, that's amazing. Just to get her nose to tuck, I was, you know, she just was so bracy. And
I just have to give her a little reward because she was just she was licking and chewing there. Yeah, she's all good with what's going on. She just said so. Go ahead and kind of ask her to go forward. I would like you to try a stop, and every time you stop this horse, when she could come back for you, I want you to back her up a step or 2 or 3. Mix it up every time, maybe 5 steps, but back her up off that bit every single time. You want this horse to start thinking back up. If that horse isn't just thinking stop, it's thinking get its hind quarters up underneath of it and backing up, your stops can be all that much better. Okay, so always back a horse, whether you're leading it from the ground or riding from the saddle. Every single time you stop a horse, back it up a step or 2. Wait for the feet to feel like the brakes totally came off, and feel through the reins that it's loose. Everything feels loose in the reins. Once you feel that, then give her full release. Then she'll look for that spot every time. But if we release when she's tight backing up, or tight in the neck, we're teaching her to be tight, so we could destroy our stop. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They kind of use the opposite of that timing and feel, then our horses don't have any stop to them. But if we wait for everything to be feel good and release, no brakes on, then say, hey, right there, that's it, good job, and let her rest. You'll have a wonderful stop for the rest of your life with that horse. Little trick for when you go home. So why don't we try that right now? We'll practice a little bit. Just ask her to go forward a little bit, then you'll stop. And then just hold the pressure and use your feet 1 foot at a time, left and right if she feels bracy on the bit. And ask her to back up off of the pressure. Okay, now straight back, tuck, there. Now how does that feel?
oh, yeah.
Isn't that sweet?
Oh my God.
That just wasn't there before, was it? Okay, so is that feeling a little bit nicer to ride this horse? And again, licking and chewing, she's totally good with it. Okay.
Transformation.
Maybe ask for just a little trot forward if you feel up to it, and then do the same thing. Ask for a stop and back up off of that bit.
Okay.
And don't release until she feels loose up into the reins and the feet. So just squeeze a little bit, squeeze. Okay, then go whoa, use whoa. Back up off of it. How's that feel?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Look at him again. Oh, that's great.
Is what you had in mind?
Whoa, that's more than what I
Okay. Okay.
Actually.
All right.
No, very good.
All right. We'll just go ahead and let you do whatever you'd like to do. If you have any questions for me, I'll be right here. Bugsy, Bugsy, Bugsy. Yeah. And I can see the hind quarter wanting to come up, you know, for a nice collected stop. We got to remember, the more energy we put into a stop, the better the stop will be. So, you know, I mean, if we're just going into a stop with that little bit of energy, we're just going to get kind of a stop like that. Yeah. So if we really want to have a nice looking stop, right before we stop, we can ask for energy by going, and then shutting our body down and saying, whoa, and then you'll get a better looking stop.
I got one question on her. She always anticipates, I don't know if she does it with you or not, but her head and ears kind of like she's always looking back at me. How do you address that when it seems seems like she's always.
I noticed that more. That's an anxiety issue that she's working through.
Anxiety.
She's waiting for your next command. She doesn't know that she can just stand there and relax and do nothing.
Yeah. It seems
She's
like
waiting for somebody to pop her on that butt and run that next race.
Yeah.
That's what, because I went out for a little trail ride before he got here with her. I asked her to stop, and she would look. Should I go this way? Can I go this way? Why are we just standing here? Where am I going? And I think that's just a little bit of an anxiety issue that's going to go away the more exercises we do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this horse has kind of been like a Greenbrook horse. You drop the reins and ask her to go straight, she just kind of goes wandering.
Yeah.
That's just a sign of a green horse, you know? So through all these exercises and the finished portion of the training, all that's going to be a thing of the past. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that at this point, but I did recognize that out on the trail.
Yeah, and I thought it had something to do with anxiety, you know,
Yeah.
anticipating, but.
She didn't know that we can just stand here and do nothing.
Yeah, and sometimes even when I would just stand, you know, sit here like this on her, she would.
That's
so
what-
much better now.
Yep.
But yeah, like on the trail.
Yep.
It was.
Especially after you're cantering, because she has an energy up there, and she wasn't able to come down out of it, which she's getting better and better at. And it, you know, by the time she comes home, it'll be, you know, just a thing of the past. But with that little bit of energy up there, she's saying, okay, where's that next barrel?
Yeah.
You know, why are we just standing here? I know you're going to slap me. You know, I know you're going to put the spurs to me. You know, but I'm saying, no, we're just going to sit here, relax a little bit. We don't have to do nothing. So she's just got to understand that, and now she's starting to.
Yep.
You know.
You do all that bad stuff that was done to her in the past, you know.
Yeah. So she just needs to understand that, hey, we're, you know, just be a horse. Enjoy it, you know. Enjoy it. And then when we do ask for the speed, she'll go into that speed with more understanding instead of, you know, I better or else attitude. It'll be a better mindset of going into it. It'll be more controlled energy then, you know. So, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just going to step out for a second, and if you've got any other questions.
I think I'm okay for now. I think with all
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
What do you think? Should we call this a night then?
I think so.
Okay. And I think the dismount is a little safer with her. She didn't really want to stand too still when we were getting off her. She got a little spooky when I came off of her. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Meep, meep.